now start to essentially take stock and start to plan for the next PI, the next 4 months. And we'll begin that with the road mapping session, which is frankly a in itself a report out of what Product Council has been saying over the last few months, identifying work streams that we need to work on. I'm going to share my screen, if I may. And I'm going to start off by reminding everyone of the pillars that we work with. We have 3 pillars for our work streams. The first is let's make it easier to use Mojaloop, to deploy it and to maintain it. Let's help people achieve scale. So what use cases do we need to facilitate? How do we help people make the deployment profitable or to achieve the broader social objectives, whatever it may be? How do we connect to other systems? So we had a lot of talk about ISO 222, for example, but that's not the only approach we're looking at. And all of that supported by quality product. And you heard this morning Sam and Paul talking, and David talking about the core work stream. So putting that to one side, I want to just give you an overview of the roadmap as it stands today, and rest assured I'm going to zoom in. But I want to first of all show you the tracks here. So across the top here in the roadmap, we have our releases and the names assigned to them. And the columns are the dates. So each column is a PI. So this column here, PI 23, is now finished at the end of March, and we've just had the release of Mojaloop Congo. We're now entering PI 24, which will end at the end of July. And then obviously beyond that, we're looking to 25, 26, 27. The pillars are represented horizontally. So pillar 1 is about making adoption easier. Pillar 2, achieve scale. Pillar 3, connect to other systems. And foundation is the quality product. We have separately a set of strategic work streams, which is where key members of the community come together to think about what we need to be addressing in the future and to make sure we're represented in international industry bodies, for example. So this column, PI 23, will be disappearing off the roadmap following this convening, and we're going to be looking at focusing on 24 and the future. So let's zoom in a little. If we zoom in down here and look at what's happening in can everyone see that? Is it legible in the room? Okay. I'll assume that you can read that then. So pillar
one. Paul, could you zoom in a bit more? It's a bit tiny on the screen. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, good. So just talking about what we've done so far in pillar 1, there's been a huge amount of work, as you've heard, for on-premise. David Fry and James Bush have talked about that to a great degree. Participation tools, we haven't done a great deal of work on that in the last PI, but I think this is something that's going to continue, as we'll see in a moment. We also know that there's been a lot of work in deployment in Azure, but we haven't really discussed that in any detail, and we need to explore that further in the next PI. We'll report back on that. For the next PI, we imagined that we are going to get, as Sam spoke about earlier, we're going to get an interim release, Mojaloop Zambezi, which will include support for merchant payments, FX, and a bunch of other stuff. And then we're looking at Mojaloop Limpopo at the end of PI 24, which will perhaps include merchant payments version 2 and a range of work to make maintaining the VNow code base easier. So within pillar 1, we anticipate 2 work streams within the next PI. The first one is going to be about participation tools and combining our on-premise work. So we're going to finish off the on-premise stuff, and also we're going to be looking at how we make Participation Manager deployable on-premise. The purpose behind this is we are looking to make the usability, the cost of Mojaloop for small financial institutions as affordable as possible. And in the past, we've tried to make Payment Manager cloud-based, but that, aside from regulatory issues, that also gives us issues with cost, because there's an ongoing monthly cost, obviously, for an on-premise a cloud deployment of Payment Manager, and it's not insignificant for small FIs. And we also deal with some larger financial institutions that have spur on-premise capability, and they would like to be able to use Payment Manager in that context as well. So the Product Council came together and said, essentially, we think that's an important thing to do. So we're proposing to adopt that for the next PI. Separately, we think that, well, we've been speaking to the FRMS team and Greg, who I think is possibly on the Zoom call. We want to have FRMS as a proof of concept or a pilot for a Mojaloop deployment, and we think that that will happen within the next PI for the COMESA proof of concept or pilot, whichever term we're using today. That will happen within the next PI, and it will continue probably for longer than that. Moving on to the next pillar, achieving scale. We have seen Kareem speaking over the last couple of days about merchant payments and the work that's been done. It's at the moment, despite the tremendous work that's been done, we know merchant payments is a huge piece of work in itself. If it wasn't a huge piece of work, Visa wouldn't be so rich. So we hugely applaud the work that the merchant payments workstream has done. But to be frank, it's only version 1. There's a lot more work to be done on merchant payments. In particular, the work that Paul Baker and his team has done on PISP version 2.0 enables us to take merchant payments to version 2. And we see in the next PI significant potential in building on the PISP work and implementing it to support merchant payments through fintechs, bulk PISP payments, bill payments, and QR-based payments taken into the fintech world rather than doing it in directly from the DFSPs that are supporting their customers. So I think that's going to be a very important work stream for the next PI, and we expect that merchant payments 2.0 and other elements to be integrated into Mojaloop Limpopo at the end of PI 24. So merchant payments v1.0 will be in Zambezi and 2.0 in Limpopo. As Sam said earlier today, merchant payments is almost ready, was not ready in time for integration into Congo, but it will be there in Zambezi. Moving to pillar 3, which is all about connecting to other systems, you can see here that it was extremely busy in the last PI. So the G2P work, a lot of work has already been done there, but it's not quite complete. So its output wasn't ready quite to go into Congo. So we expect it to be integrated into Zambezi in the next PI. Foreign exchange, as you can see, there is a whole set of sub work streams around that for the VNow code base and the VNext code base. The VNow code base work is very close to completion for use in proof of concepts and pilots, certainly. And we expect that to be in Zambezi in PI 24. However, we think that some of the work will probably continue. And in fact, we have, as we never tire of saying, FX is not the same as cross-border. It's not the same as connecting to other mode loops in multi-schemes. So we think that we are going to have to do a significant amount of work in the next PI on planning for multi-scheme deployments. And Michael has already hosted a number of presentations, workshops on precisely that subject. And we expect that to be an active work stream in the next PI. We also know allied to that, but not quite the same, is we need to be able to connect to other payment systems, and the priorities that have been identified by the Modular go-to-market team are being able to integrate with PAPS and TCIB. That's very important for a number of deployments across Africa, and it is a priority for the next PI, and we expect that work to be finished by the end of the PI, so that's end of July 2024, and I hope that's soon enough for the go-to-market team. A lower priority in this work stream is to actually extend the G2P work to support other forms of digital ID. I should also have highlighted in Pillar 2 that the work that's been done on PISP with taking it to version 2.0 is actually taking us a long way to being able to support AISP. Payment geeks in the room will know that AISP is of particular interest to fintechs. It allows them to integrate multiple FI accounts into a single user interface for customers and add significant value there. So we're not ready to launch that yet, but I think the merchant and bulk is probably more a higher priority, but be aware that we have our eye on AISP, but it'll probably be in PI 25, not the next PI. Similarly, back to Pillar 3, we also know that there is a demand for proxies for Swift and Nexus, but that's lower priority, and we're not looking at that before PI 25. Similarly, native ISO 20022, well, we really need to wait for the ISO organization to approve those changes that Michael has introduced, and we certainly don't see it in the next PI, maybe PI 25. We'll see how it goes. And similarly, support for domestic debit is a requirement in a number of markets, but it's not a priority for us. Moving on to the foundation and quality product, you've heard all of the work heard about all of the work in performance. That was a huge element of the input into Emergent Congo, which has just been released. We expect that work to continue in the next PI. And to be honest, I think it's probably something that will stay forever as a work stream, because it's important. It's as important as the work that's done by the core team, and is closely allied with that work. So we expect performance characterization to be a continuing work stream. You've seen the very impressive presentation for Tiger Beetle. We don't quite know when that work is going to be incorporated into certainly the VNow code base and later on the VNext code base. But it is a priority for us, and sorry, I should have mentioned here, Next Gen Settlement is closely allied with Tiger Beetle, so I apologize, I got them confused there. there is quite a lot of work in next gen settlement remaining in the integration of the administration APIs into the VNow code base here and that integration into the VNext code base hasn't been completed either. So that's an ongoing piece of work. Core team, you've heard them talking today. That is a very important element of maintaining the integrity of the Moduloop code base for VNow and VNext, and I expect that work stream to continue for the foreseeable future. And similarly, platform quality and security. Sam has been very active in continuing the work of this particular work stream, and it's had some valuable outputs already, and giving us some confidence that the cybersecurity of the Moduloop platform is as we would expect it to be. But again, that's an ongoing maintenance work stream that I expect to continue forever. The only new work stream for the quality product platform is in localization. There has been demand from some hub operators that we do better support for both participants and hub operators. By participants, I mean DFSPs, in terms of language and time zone. We've done some already some work on this. We had a session about a fortnight ago to define this work stream, and we think that this is quite a high priority one. We don't think it's as big a job as we first thought, so we do expect this to be completed in PI 24, and it may take as long as the whole PI 24, but I think it will be ready for Moduloop Limpopo at the end of July. That covers all of that. I think I'm going to zoom out slightly to make a generalized point. You will see that in the next time you look at this roadmap, the PI 23 work will have disappeared. PI 24 will have been firmed up. So with these hatched sections will have been blocked in because we know what we're doing. And we'll start to think about what comes in PI 25 with a little more detail as PI 24 continues, and similarly PI 26 onwards. Final thing to say before I finish, sorry, two final things. First of all, you can see here that each of these Moduloop releases relies on the previous release, and that's because each builds on, in this case, the VNow code base. We then have a hiatus here, and this is because we expect at some point the VNext code base to be taking over in terms of our future releases of Moduloop. It will be a drop-in replacement. That is a basic requirement, but we don't know quite when this will come. So tentatively, we've penciled it in for the end of November, the end of PI 25. But as James has said multiple times today, we expect in the next couple of weeks to be able to give a more reliable estimate of that. So please hold on, and we'll review the roadmap over the next few weeks and firm up where we expect the first Moduloop release of the VNext code base, which will be called Baobab. We'll put a firmer date on that then. Finally, before I hand over to James, I hope you're waiting. There are 4 workshops this afternoon which are about the work streams for the next PI. So we're going to talk about participation tools, PISP for merchant payments in particular, the proxies for PAPS and TCIB, which will also address the planning for multi-scheme deployments, and localization. And so those will be the basis of the deep dive that we're going to do this afternoon and tomorrow morning. So hopefully we can get better sizing and firm up the plans for those work streams. For the moment, that's all I have to say on the roadmap. Before I hand over to James, are there any questions in the room?
Paul, just to emphasize to everybody in the room that do we have an opportunity now to advocate for any of the work streams to be prioritized in this session?
We've had 2 sessions in Product Council to
Right.
prioritize. So this isn't just Paul coming up with a bunch of ideas. This is Product Council that have selected these. So
Okay.
I'm not sure that a third round of voting is necessary.
There is a very strong hand from Michael Richards.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's a mic. 1 second.
Thanks. I just wanted to pick up on your comments about the ISO 20022 work stream, Paul.
Sure.
We are very conscious that we have a responsibility to COMESA to make sure that the ISO 20022 version of Mojaloop is available to meet their timeframes. We've talked to the ISO 20022 payments organization to say we intend to implement much earlier than the PI after this coming one. They are happy with that, provided we make a commitment, which we have done, to say if there do turn out to be any changes from what we implement, we will, of course, we will go back and make those changes. So we're going to be pressing forward as fast as we possibly can. Anybody who would like to be involved in this, I make a plea now. Please come and talk to me. Please, let's try and make sure that we wind up with a version of ISO 20022 that's both deployable for COMESA and usable in the rest of Africa as well, and indeed elsewhere in the world. So this is, in my mind at least, a high velocity work stream.
I'm very happy to hear that, Michael, and I note your concerns. My only concern, as ever, is we are very tightly resource constrained. If there is a resource available, I'm very happy to bring that forward here.
To build up on that point, Paul, for those people in the room, this is not just a presentation. This is the point where you need to make a commitment. There are a number of priorities on the roadmap. Paul, do you have that open again?
I have the roadmap. I'm screen sharing right now.
There we go. All right, we can see it. So there are a number of work streams that need people to sign up for them and to contribute to them over the next couple of weeks and coming months. Paul, I'm toying around with the idea of just going through each one of them and identifying the work stream lead so that people know who to approach to join the work stream. Would you find that useful?
If you look at the agenda, you will see that this afternoon and tomorrow morning, there are 4 workshop sessions on exactly these subjects. And we have James and Sam leading them, but that does not mean that they want to be the workstream lead. So within that sessions, it is for those sessions to choose a workstream lead for these.
Got it. Okay. So there are 4 sessions for this afternoon that there are 2 sessions this afternoon that James is going to give a quick overview on, and 2 more tomorrow morning. Are you going to summarize those as well? Okay. Your decision for everybody in the room is to find your place in one of these 4 work streams, these 4 priority areas, and contribute over the next couple of weeks in order to make progress on our roadmap, as has been explained by Paul. James?
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Simeon. Paul, just one question. Did I hear you correctly saying that today, one of the breakout sessions, you're expecting to be participation tools? Looking at the
No, it's localization and merchant payments.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to make sure I hadn't got things wrong. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So this afternoon, when we come back from lunch, this room will have been split into two halves, and we'll be running two concurrent sessions. One focused on cross-border and PISP-initiated merchant payments. You will have heard people talking about this topic so far already this week. If you have an interest in this area, if you want to help decide what work gets done in the coming weeks and months, please join that session. The other concurrent session is localization. Localization is the adaptation of the user interfaces around the switch, the hub software itself, to cater for operators and users who manage and run the switch in their own particular language and set of international standards settings for number formats, string formats, date and time formats, for example. So if you have an interest in that area, please seek out that session. I will be leading the session on merchant payments, and Sam, who everybody knows, will be running the session on localization. The aim of these sessions is to brainstorm the problem space and determine a set of what we call in the Agile world epics. That's high-level problems that we want to solve, high-level user stories that we wish to implement in this next upcoming program increment. I know people use the term PI. That stands for program increment. And for those of you who haven't come across that before, we follow an Agile process based on something called SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. I recommend you have a look at the internet, do a Google for SAFe Agile Framework if you want to understand how we run our processes. So this is equivalent to a product convening, a product meeting of minds at this point to figure out what you guys as the community want us to focus on delivering in those particular areas in the coming weeks and months. Does anybody have any questions about what's going to happen this afternoon? I'll remind you the two sessions are cross-border merchant payments and PISP merchant payments. And the second session is localization. The adaptation.
Also, can I re-emphasize that you will, at the start, be choosing a workstream lead for each?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that, Paul. Yes. If you want to be the workstream lead, there are some responsibilities that come with that position. You have to organize meetings, keep records, make sure everybody in the workstream follows the approved contribution guidelines and the process. It's an opportunity for you to get more involved with the way Mojaloop is built and the community in general. So please don't be shy. Any other questions from around the room? Fantastic. In that case, Simeon, I think it's about lunchtime, isn't it? Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Paul, any wrap up from you?
No, that was everything. I think we've covered everything there. There's actually, I would emphasize that workstream leads will be expected to report into Product Council, and I will be publishing a schedule of Product Council meetings and in the next couple of weeks, and every workstream lead will be expected to present on progress or their goals and how they expect to achieve it, and resource requirements and any impediments, etc. So yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Simeon, question.
Yes, one question.
So do we have these breakout for remote attendees as well?
No. So yes and no. In each and every room, we will have somebody set up Zoom on their respective laptops. So to accommodate those of us who are online, For those of you who are online, we will indicate a slide on this particular Zoom setup with links to the respective workshops, and you can join virtually there, but you'll be joining on somebody's laptop. So the moderators in the room, please try and accommodate those people participating virtually.
Just one thing occurred to me. I don't think we're going to have another whole session tomorrow morning, are we? So, so I should give you some information about the other breakouts that are planned for tomorrow as well. One of the breakouts is participation tools. Tomorrow, participation tools, this work stream is focused on developing tools, documentation, artifact, products, which help DFSPs, large or small, participate in Mojaloop schemes. Things like Payment Hub EE from Mifos, the Mojaloop SDK, and Payment Manager that you will have heard so much about. Those all fall into that work stream. If you're interested in those areas, please join us in that session tomorrow.
Can I also say that that work stream is going to was selected particularly because we need to make sure that we have on-premise solutions for those participation tools. So it's like a merger of the old participation tools work stream and the on-premise work stream.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Paul. Yeah, increasingly, as I think I mentioned yesterday, on-prem as a deployment target for all our tool set is a priority. So we will be focusing on that somewhat tomorrow. The other scheme, the other workshop tomorrow is focused on multi-scheme considerations, proxies for PAPS and TCIB. So related to some of the sessions that you've heard today and yesterday as well. If you have an interest in determining what focus areas are worked on in the upcoming weeks and months, if you have product needs, business requirements that you want to share with the community, come and bring them to the brainstorming. But we do aim to come out of those sessions with some epic definitions. So it's not just going to be a huge brainstorming session. We need to actually write down, even at a high level, what we actually want to get done in the next PI, what deliverables we want to see by the end of the next PI. If we have some time, we might start thinking about some more details on how we're going to achieve those things. But the main focus is at a high level to figure out what we're going to do in those areas for the next PI. If anybody has any questions about that I haven't answered and we don't have time for any more questions now, then please find me. I'll be around. Or you can ping Paul a message on the Mojaloop Slack. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Look forward to seeing you this afternoon.